Hey, it's me, Mr. Wells. I'm hoping that this works out okay. Um, we're going to be talking about research papers, and you're going to be writing a research paper this quarter. Don't freak out about it. Don't get worried about it. Don't get upset about it. We're just going to do it, and we're going to go through the steps of it. You have already started looking at your research writing notes. Their slides were posted on under materials under the writing tab in your Google Classroom. And when you do that, you're going to fill out the notes based on those slides. When I first posted it, I accidentally posted the wrong slides. So if you haven't looked at it in a while, go ahead and go back and look at it. You may have to unsubmit your notes if you submitted them, just to double check that you got the right things down in your notes. And I extended the deadline for that, so you will have time to do that. But go ahead and make sure you check on that. Make sure you take those research and writing notes. I'm also going to put in the materials in the writing section a document called research note card format. And that's going to be very important because you're going to be making some note cards. Now, you really need some 3x5 note cards for this. And when you're a remote student, it's going to be a little bit different than when you're in class. 3x5 note cards were one of the things that was on the school supply list at the beginning of the year. So hopefully you have some. If not, you can make some, using a piece of paper or something like that. And you're going to, when you do your note cards up, you're going to take a picture of them and submit them to me. Another way you could do it is you can type them up on a Google Doc if you want to. But somehow you're going to submit that. If the format doesn't work out, I may ask you to redo them and just say, hey, can you do it this way instead of that way or something? But it's a work in progress, kind of experimental when we're working and doing it with remote students. So I will work with you on that to make sure that you do it correctly. But the main thing here is we're trying to get you introduced to research. We're trying to get you introduced to research and how to do research correctly. And you're getting just a taste of it because you're in the eighth grade. I guarantee you that when you're in high school, you will be doing this and you'll be doing more of it than you're doing now. I had a high school student in here for a minute ago, but she just walked out. I was going to ask her if she had to do research papers for high school, but I guarantee the answer is yes. And if you go to college, if you end up going to college, you're going to be doing them maybe for almost every single class. So you need to really take this seriously and look at what we're doing. The other thing is it can be a little difficult simply because this is new to most of you. One of the things that was going to happen last year was that you were going to be introduced to this in the seventh grade and then practice a little bit more in the eighth grade. But the seventh grade last year at Hoopston did not get to do this because when we went out for COVID at the end of the year, it was one of those things that just didn't get done. So we're trying to make up for lost time too, and it could be a little more difficult because if you've never done something before, it just can be more difficult. But the idea is you're going to be researching facts. And when you research those facts, you need a way of organizing them. You need a way of keeping track of where you found your information. Some of you are used to Googling your information. That's great. Google is a great way to find information. But Google is not a source. Okay, some of you had me for science class last year and you did Google slide presentations and I asked you to put the sources on your slide and then some of you just put Google and you remember me looking at you, looking you right in the eye and saying, Google is not a source. I will say that multiple times. Google is not a source. Google is not a source. I'm going to say it so many times that you're going to be dreaming. You're going to be having, Miss Torres are going to be having nightmares at night of me saying Google is not a source. Google is not a source. Google is a place where sources go to hang out. So you can't just put that you found something on Google. You need to tell me what the website was, or it could be a book, it could be a magazine. You need to tell me what it is. And we're doing MLA format, that's the Modern Language Association. They have a very specific format for research papers of how sources are supposed to be cited. In other words, how you show us and show me as a teacher and show anybody that would read it where you got the information that you put. So that's citing sources. So I want you to look at your research note card format, your research note card format document that I said, like I said, was in the materials under your writing tab in Google Classroom. And it says at the top, format for a note card. And then it has outlined how you cite that, okay? It has first thing you want to put is the author, and then you put a period. The punctuation is very important. Then you have the title of the source and a period. Now that's the name of your article, and it could be either in quotes or it could be in italics. And the way you determine that is that a short work is put in quotes and something that's longer is put in italics. So if you were going to cite a book is always considered a long work, even if it's a short book. A book is considered a long work. You're going to put that in italics. On the other hand, let's say you remember our collections textbook, which has all the short stories in it that you read for ELA class. In that case, the title of your source is going to be the short story, and a short story is short. That's why it's called a short story. So it's in quotes, but the title of your container is going to be the book that those short stories are in, collections, and that's going to be in italics. Okay, so the title of the source is the name of the book or article, and the container is the thing that the source is in. So a short story or poem could be in a book with several stories or poems. When you do your research, you're going to be doing mostly online. And if that's the case, you're going to be working with a website. If it's an article on the website, the title of the source is the name of the article. What's the name of the article? And the container is the name of the website. Container is the name of the website. And we'll look at some examples of that here in a minute. So the title of the container is the thing that book or that article is in, if it's on a website. And if it's short, it's going to be in quotes. If it's long, it's going to be in italics. Here's the thing. If you're writing it out by hand, it's going to be underlined instead of in italics. Because all italics is when you're slanting the letters. And the thing is, some of you, when you write, you slant your letters anyway. All right. So what we do is when we handwrite things, we underline it. And when we type it, we put it in italics. Okay. It's important you get all of these punctuations correct because you're going to be graded on these things. If you're doing them by hand on a note card, you're going to take a picture of them and you're going to send them to me when you do it. After that, you're going to put a comma after your title of your container. You're going to put other contributors. That would be if there was a translator, or if it's a book with pictures and there's an illustrator, or if it was edited and there's an editor. And you'll find those things on the title page, on the copyright page of a book. So you should, if they're there, you should find them on a website. Well, now what happens if there's not? If the book was written in English, there is no translator. There might not be any other contributors. Well, if one of these things on the list isn't there, you just skip it and go to the next thing. The next thing here is version. What's a version? Well, a version, a lot of times is called an edition. And usually on the copyright page, you'll see somewhere where it says a version, the name of a version, or it will say second edition or something like that. And that's where you'll want to list that if it's there. A lot of times there's not, but if there is, you want to list it. Don't get confused if it says printing. Printing is not the same thing as a version. Okay, a printing just means the book is reprinted, but the book itself is pretty much the same from when it was printed before. So if it's an edition or version, it'll say that on the copyright page, and you want to include that. If the source is a magazine, you will want to include the number. So most magazines have a number on them, like Volume 5, Issue 1. That indicates, it's the fifth year that the magazine was published, and this is issue 1, probably the January edition of the magazine. Books and websites typically do not have a number, all right? So most of the time you're going to skip that. The next thing is a publisher. A publisher is a company, the name of a company, not a person. This is the company that made the book, that printed the book. Usually it's on the title or the copyright page. Okay, so it'll say something like Bantam Books, and that'll be the publisher. Websites normally don't have a publisher. They will have a container, and that is the same as your publisher, so you won't list a publisher. If there's no publisher, there's always going to be a publisher for a book, but if there's no publisher on a website, you just don't list it. For publication date, use the copyright date. I would just recommend using the earliest one so we know when the book first came out. There might be lots of dates on the copyright page, dates of the printing, dates of this and that. Take the copyright date, take the earliest one for your publication date. Okay. On a website, if it says last updated and here's the date, that's your publication date. On a website, if it just gives you a date, that's your publication date. The next thing is location. Location, location, location. Now, location is not a city, okay? You do not put the city where a book was published. Now, the only exception to that is if the book was written before 1900, you do. So on the title page, a lot of times you'll see the name of the publishing company and what city it's in. That's not the location. What we're talking about when we say location is the page number or the URL. So if it's a book, you're going to want to put the page number. If it is a website, you're going to put the URL, meaning the web address. Put the whole thing. I know it's going to be tedious. I mean, I'm looking right now at my screen and I'm looking at a Google Docs that says docs.google.com/document/D/1X8JT7YUMQPROQCHQK 6ZQYPUJ9 underscore JZOAJ8 VK5C VSHUEQ/edit. Ms. Torres, can you repeat that back to me?
No, because I wasn't paying attention.
She said she wasn't paying attention. Well, anyway, you get it. It's boring, it's tedious, it's horrible, but we got to have the whole thing because that's what tells us where this is located, okay? If you're typing it out, then truthfully, you can copy and paste it, okay? I know your teachers when you're younger tell you not to copy and paste, but what they mean by that is don't steal other people's ideas, okay? You take somebody's idea, you pass it off as your own, that's stealing. If you copy and paste a web address, that's just using your time wisely, okay? So you got to have the whole thing on there, okay? And then finally, after location, you're going to put a period, and then you're going to put date accessed. You want to put the word accessed, okay? Put the word accessed. That way we know we're not talking about the publication date. We're talking about the date you looked it up. Date accessed is the day you looked it up. So like today, I'm recording this on March 22nd. I would put accessed March 22nd, 2021. Okay, so at the bottom of your research card note format, I put some examples of how to cite some things on there. First example I have is Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. Anne Frank is the author, so I've got Anne Frank, period. The Diary of a Young Girl, it's the name of a book, so I put it in italics. I put it as period. There are other contributors. It was translated by B.M. Mouillard because it was originally written in Dutch, translated into English, and published by Otto Frank. In this case, we're talking about a person who published it because Anne Frank died during World War II. Her dad, Otto Frank, found her diary and then published it, so he is considered another contributor. and then we put a comma, and the publisher, which is the company that published it, Bantam Books, comma, 1952, which would be your publication date, okay, and then your location, which in this. Now, your note cards are going to be two-sided, and this is important. I hope you remember this. If you've gotten this far in the video, good for you. Means you're paying attention, but I need to put a code word in here to make sure they're watching the video. What should our code word be?
Cool cat.
Cool cat. Natalia says it should be cool cat. So what you'll do is you will email me with the phrase cool cat, and you'll get your 5 points for watching this video. All right. But location is going to be page 1. This is important though. Your note cards are two-sided. On one side, you have the cited source, like you have an example here. And on the other side, you have your fact, what you actually researched that came from that page. Okay? So in my example here, if I had The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank and I said page 1, I better have a quote or I better have something written in my own words that came from page 1 on the front side of the card. Okay? And you can put it in your own words or you can quote it. If you quote it, it has to be written exactly and it has to be in quotes. If it's not, that's the same as stealing. Okay? You're taking other people's ideas and trying to pass it off as your own. And as you get older, what you'll realize is that is a good way to get yourself sitting in the dean of students' office, okay, by doing that. No, I already gave him a code. I'm not giving him, I'm not telling him Gangsta Wells is the code, okay? What was the code anyway? Cool cat?
Yeah.
Cool cat.
Yeah, but there should be 2 codes.
Maybe.
Yeah.
2 codes? Why?
And how to spell the cool cat.
I am in the middle of a teaching video here, people.
Did you pause it?
Anyway, no, I didn't pause it. All right, so cool cat is the first code, and just because I'm feeling it is National Goof Off Day today, and so just because I'm feeling good, if you put the second code in here, Gangsta Wells, I'll give you 1 extra credit point too. All right. So make sure your cards, though, in all seriousness, make sure your cards have a fact on one side that you've researched, and it has something you've cited on the other side. Now, I have put on here some examples of both examples of books and websites. One of the websites that we're going to do here is Cardi B Makes History as Bodak Yellow is Certified Diamond. I'm reading it off of my board here because I actually don't have it on the paper yet. It's written by Heron Mamo. So you've got Heron Mamo as the author, and then period, and then the title of your source, which is the name of the article. Cardi B Makes History as Bodak Yellow is Certified Diamond. You want to use, if you put in quotes, you better just use the same punctuation that they use. And then you're going to put the title of your container, which is the website. Billboard, you're going to underline it. If you're writing it by hand, you're going to put it in italics if you're typing it, and then you're going to put a period. And then the article was from March 9th, 2021. And then it has the URL, big long URL there. And then you put a period, and then that's your location. And then you put accessed and whatever date you had it accessed. Okay, so that's how you cite a website. Okay, so here's your homework. Your homework is to come up with 2 note cards for me. 1 note card should be from a book. All right, and you're going to put a fact on one side. It could be any fact from the book, from any page in the book, and then you're going to cite it in proper format, proper MLA format. Use any book you want. You could use your book talk book. You need to be having your book talk book picked out anyway. Use your book talk book, and then do that with a book. Second assignment is to do it with a website. Okay, so you're also going to just pick a website, something you're interested in, a hobby, a sport, something that really interests you. Put a fact about it and cite it from a website. All right. So I know that's a lot to take in. Just read through the notes, try it, see what you do. I will give you some feedback when you turn some things into me, so that you can make corrections and know what you're doing before we move on to the next part, in which you're going to be doing these for your actual research project. If you don't have a research topic yet, by the way, you need to get one. An invention that was invented before 1950. All right, thanks. I appreciate you watching. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, enable your notifications. I'd like to thank my producer and my in-studio audience, and I'll talk to you later. Have a great National Goof Off Day.
Bye. Bye.